Well, of course, if you think of the Black Panther Party, you have to think about our feeding people in general. On one hand, people thought of us as a sort of black militant opposite number of the Ku Klux Klan, which was about as ridiculous as anything could be. We had an ideology, we were Marxist-Leninists, and we had an understanding that our oppression was not the only form of oppression in America. And as a result, we coalesced with any number of organizations or a number of groups representing other oppressed groups, starting with AIM, the American Indian Movement, moving through the Brown Berets, the Young Lords, the Young Patriots, which were poor whites coming out of Chicago, based in Chicago. And we expanded that to groups in throughout the world. Of course, we had coalitions in China and Cuba, but we also supported ZANU in Zimbabwe and the PAC in South Africa and in Mozambique, Frelimo, and so forth, and had support groups. So we thought of ourselves, by the time Huey Newton got out of prison in 1970, we thought of ourselves as a international revolutionary organization. But we were the only organization that also said that we saw gay rights and gay liberation as a part of our struggle. That was a statement issued by Huey in 1970. And that was a truly incredible position, because no one was saying anything about gay liberation who was part of the progressive movement or the radical movement or the revolutionary movements as they existed, certainly not black people. Secondly, we talked about women's liberation very specifically as a part of our struggle. Thirdly, we talked about the rights of people who were of the elderly, and eventually we were able to give birth to the great Panthers. We also talked about the question of not just environmental racism, but the environmental questions. And we formed a partnership and a coalition with the Trust for Public Land and created a project called Gardens in the Ghetto. So we were fully conscious that other people were oppressed groups, and we became more conscious about the rights of disabled people during that period between, we can say, 1971 and 2, and the time when we had the great sit-in at the Federal Building. The other thing is, I just saw a poster recently of a 1972 event where we gave away 10,000 bags of groceries to everybody who showed up at the Oakland Auditorium, free bags. We had free clinics. We had free food programs in general. We did all of these things because we saw these as building and organizing people around their basic needs and their right to have them, right to have food, right to have, freedom of movement and so forth. All of these rights were connected to us, and we recognized that when we joined with others and joined others with us, that our freedom was tied to the freedom of everyone else. And that is a very important thing. So we were not speaking just of rights under the law, civil rights, that is. We talked about the freedom of everyone. And eventually we met with and learned about the Center for Independent Living and met with Ed Roberts. But I think probably our consciousness was raised around this issue of the independence and the rights and freedom of people who were oppressed because of disabilities, because we had a brother in the party named Brad Lomax who had become afflicted with MS and who showed us that he was black and he was poor, but we didn't think about how he was going to get around and be in the Black Panther Party if he didn't have the physical ability to be in the party. And so we had to transform our own thinking, which we did, which wasn't difficult because we were already recognizing the various aspects of oppression throughout the world and within the United States. So we decided to put our energy into also participating in any efforts on the parts of people, mostly led by the Center for Independent Living and Ed Roberts.